Hi guys, welcome back to the Drive Live channel. In today's video we're going to be showing you how I managed to get 40 plus MPG out of my medium wheelbase Sprinter. Now this isn't any sort of special Sprinter, it's a medium wheelbase 313, meaning it's got the 2.1 litre 4-cylinder diesel OM651 engine, and it's just by a few methods that you can use and understanding how the van works. Means you can really maximise fuel economy. So we're just on the M25 at the moment. We noticed that I'm behind a lorry. I'm leaving at an appropriate gap. We've got our cruise control set to 56 miles an hour. Now this is today I'm doing a 180 mile journey, so we'll see if we can get the average over the whole journey over 40 miles per gallon. I have managed 46 miles per gallon, which was absolutely outrageous for a vehicle of this size. Don't forget it's fully converted as a camper van as well in the back, so we're looking at nearly the max weight of the vehicle as well. So yeah, it certainly is quite a challenge, but at the moment we're showing 26.6, 26.7. I've done just a quick bit around the town to get onto the M25 here. So the trick is, I'm finding, well, there's a few tricks, but number one is definitely speed. Now I've done this journey so many times and I find that dropping your speed by even 5 miles an hour can improve MPG by up to 5 MPG. These things are not aerodynamic in the slightest, and really this does make a difference, and that's one of the reasons you can follow lorries. Now like I said, I'm trying to keep a good distance away from this lorry. A lot of you have heard of the 2-second rule, or 2 car lengths, or how many car lengths. So I'm leaving a safe distance, but I am getting enough of a draft off of the lorry, which means that my van doesn't have to go through as much air. Everything sort of moves it around. You can see as well, as a lorry comes past, you also get something called a side draft, which is where the air that lorry is displacing goes around our van, means that we don't have to push through the air, and then saves a lot of fuel. We're already up now to 38.8 mpg, and it's going to keep climbing. So speed and following lorries is a huge way to really boost it up. Over this 4-hour journey, it's going to cost me an extra 20 minutes to go at 56 miles an hour rather than 70, so it really doesn't make much of a difference, but massively increases your fuel economy by, say, 10-15%. So well worth doing if you're doing a lot of miles like I do. I've just put £93 in, for example. So that's tip number 1 and 2. Now we've just entered a 50 zone here on the M25, whereas most people drove up to the zone, put the brakes on as soon as it said 50. I spotted it early and eased off, so I just took the cruise control off, let the van naturally slow down, because when you're coasting you use no fuel whatsoever. Fuel turns off in the engine and the wheels turn the engine, which will save you so much fuel. Now this doesn't apply if you put the van into neutral. So at the moment I've got the cruise control off, we've started to catch the van in front, or the truck in front, and we use no fuel for about 40 metres there. So if you put the van into neutral, the van then has to put fuel into the engine to keep it running, keep it idling. It's the same as if you just stopped and left the engine running. Obviously it uses far less fuel than accelerating, but the optimum way to do it is actually ease off, let the wheels turn the engine, and as long as the revs are over 1000 RPM, it will actually not use any fuel while you're rolling, which is fantastic. It shuts it off completely, which can really save you a lot. And now we've got a few people joining here. Now that lorry in front is braking. I've eased off. I haven't touched the brakes, and I'm just going to roll. Let the gap build up to the lorry in front. Change down a gear, and there we are. We just rolled that distance without even having to touch the brakes. And we're already on 39.3 miles per gallon in less than 7 miles. So you can see just how effective these driving techniques are. Now I always like a 50 zone on the motorway because everyone ends up driving the same speed, it reduces traffic, but also it really helps fuel economy. Again, going down to 50 makes a massive difference. We're just about to hit 40 miles per gallon now in the first 8 miles of our journey. On 39.9, there we go, 40 miles per gallon, and we really haven't broken a sweat. We haven't had to do any crazy techniques or anything like that. We're just cruising along nicely. And now you see we've got the national speed limit coming on again, so I'm just going to roll onto the acceleration really gently. The more gently you accelerate, the less fuel you'll use, and ideally I'd like to be behind this truck here with the vans there, so I'm going to move in front of the truck that we can see on the left hand side here, and we're going to move up behind into a following position on the truck in front that we've been following already. And because it's nice and tall, it's going to leave a nice weight for us to slip into. So I'm just up the speed slightly, just strategically planning. Don't forget we're getting side drafted as well from this truck on the left, and you can feel that straight away that the engine the revs almost drop. So yeah, that is planning ahead, not using the brakes and allowing the van to roll really does make a difference on the fuel economy. We're now approaching 41 MPG at 40.6, and once I get into the following distance with this truck to get the appropriate or the desired drafting effect, then we'll see that number keep climbing. There we go, 40.7. So yeah, as you can see, it's really not that difficult, and actually it's quite easy because you don't have to worry about overtaking all the time. You just stay in the slow lane, nice and chilled, and then when people try and merge, you just ease off. Okay then, so you join me on the M4 now, and we're averaging 43.3 after nearly 40 miles of driving. It was up to 45, but we dropped down to go through Bracknell because the M25 is chaos as usual. So yeah, so another thing that you can really do to improve your fuel economy is to really be aware of what's in front of you. For example, we've got quite perfectly, we've got a speed limit sign ahead, and I can see that everyone's braking, so I'm going to knock the cruise control off now, and we're going to roll up to whatever's going on. It gives us more time, and it gives traffic time to get out of our way. Not that it's in our way, but if you know what I mean. So by dropping the speed down, we coast that bit using no fuel whatsoever. Now, the way that it does that is that the van actually will turn off the fuel when you're in gear. Oh, the signs have gone out now, so we can accelerate that up. But the van actually turns off the fuel supply to the engine as you roll, because the engine's being turned by the wheels. Now, a caveat to that is if you put the van in neutral and coast like that, it actually then doesn't cut off fuel. You actually end up using more fuel than if you had just left it in gear to coast. Now, this is obviously pretty handy. You can actually use the gears to slow down as long as you keep the revs above 1000 RPM. That again, it will then start pumping fuel back into the engine. So that's worth knowing, because it can be tempted to sort of let it really slow down on the revs, but you've got to keep it over 1000 RPM for it to use no fuel, which is something that a lot of people don't realise. You really do save a lot of fuel by just making that slight little change to the way that you're slowing down. But yeah, 43.3 so far. Unfortunately, we've not got any lorries to follow or anything like that, but we're going to rely on all our other stuff. So tyre pressures, make sure that you've got your tyre pressures up to full pressure or within manufacturer specifications. Reduces the rolling resistance. Gear selection, always try and go for the highest gear possible without sort of making the engine struggle. I try and change gear just before 2000 RPM on flat grounds. Doing it beforehand on hilly terrain can actually use more fuel. So it's just a fine balance. The more you practice, the better you'll get at it, really. This van doesn't have air conditioning, but if you did have air conditioning, you can turn that off as well. It does make a difference. It's very slight, so it depends whether you want to sweat or whether you want to save fuel. But through all of these, you can really save a fair bit just by being a more conscious driver. Okay then, so we're now on the A419, just coming off the Siren Sister, and we're currently 80 miles into the journey and averaged 44 MPG. I just wanted to go over one final tip. There's all sorts of different things people say. You can use pulse and glide, which is where you accelerate up to speed, then let the vehicle coast and that sort of thing. But the van this big, you're never going to get the benefits because you've got to slow down far too much. However, we're just about to come up to a big hill. And one thing that I found really does help is if we knock off our cruise control now, we can then freewheel, like I've discussed already. But during cruise control, the van wouldn't allow itself to freewheel quite like this. It wouldn't completely cut off all the fuel. So now we haven't really lost any speed whatsoever. If anything, we're gaining a slight bit of speed now. And we're travelling probably half a mile using no fuel at all. And that's how we're going to get up to these sort of 40, 45 miles per gallon runs. Now obviously it completely depends what kind of roads you're driving on. Now the last part of my journey will be on country roads, B roads, A roads, tight twisty roads, and realistically that is going to be much more difficult to get decent fuel economy on those roads than it is this road here where we're sat at 55 miles an hour, because we're limited to 60 anyway on a dual carriageway in a van. You're just not going to be able to do it. The fact that you have to touch the accelerator more means that you have to use more fuel. That's just the ultimate goal, the ultimate fact of it. But really easily, just to break it down, what you need to do to get the best fuel economy is touch the brake as little as possible. It sounds crazy, but the idea is that if you're having to brake, you didn't need the fuel to get to that speed in the first place, if that makes sense. So if you work on that basic principle in a Sprinter, you are definitely going to save a load of fuel. There's no doubt about it. So like I said, look, 44.3 MPG is definitely possible, and it's good fun to play with as well. If you don't know how to change the menu, we've got the steering wheel controls. All you have to do is go through. You can see here we've got 743 miles range. I've already done 81 miles, so that gives us a total range of over 800 miles if you drive like this, which I just think is absolutely staggering. I put 93 pounds in before I left. I had a quarter of a tank or so you think for £100 you're getting 800 miles if you're driving sensibly like this. And the only difference is, compared to how most people drive, is gentle acceleration and just bringing the speed down slightly. Those are the two main differences. You can see the range here is going up 748. That's how much your driving style will affect, I'll just move out here for this lorry, will affect your overall fuel economy. Yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.